Hello, hello, and welcome back to Urban Tumbleweed. Today we have an especially interesting and pretty unique episode. It's going to be more man, woman, person on the street style. I am currently hosting a booth at Sustainable Ballard, which is located in downtown Ballard, Seattle, Washington. And the purpose of this booth is people who are participating or just walking around have the opportunity to come up to the booth and answer questions about sustainability, which range from why is sustainability important? Why does it matter to you? How can you be more sustainable, etc. So if you're interested in hearing what local community members have to say about sustainability, or even some of the patrons and the business owners and nonprofit organizers, then stay tuned. Why is sustainability important?
Sustainability is important to me because just I want to see things continue. I I don't like how hopeless everything feels, and it feels like believing in sustainability is believing in the possibility of continuation. Uh, and I don't know, it's something I can do, something I can work on, uh, and I do it a lot in my day-to-day life. So yeah.
What do you do in your day-to-day life?
Well, I'm a software developer, which you can do that pretty sustainably, however you do it. But like I bike everywhere. I use my car like less than once a week if I have to. And like I take the bus. And like I love how Seattle has like all this composting and stuff. Like, just I want that to be more places.
We live in a finite world. The resources are not limitless, and we're seeing numerous examples of that now, contributing to all of the maladies we see with global warming and weather instability everywhere. With simple changes that may not be cheap, but in the long run cost effective, we would make the place a better place for not just ourselves now, but for future generations. And there really is no rational alternative to it. Continue the path we're on is I wouldn't say certain death, but high probable death for our species and the planet. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Hey all, my name's Mimi. So today I'm going to talk about the first one, which is why is sustainability important to me. I think the biggest thing is sustainability is kind of a buzzword for a lot of people right now. And so really digging into the importance behind it and why we need sustainability in order to pass a world on to our children and their children that we can actually still live in and in a way that is healthy and protected both for our species and for every other species. So just the biggest thing right now is educating people and taking advantage of that buzz to make sure that it's actually deep into their brains and their knowledge.
How are you sustainable in your everyday life?
I am sustainable in my everyday life, mostly through my work. So I work for an electric vehicle manufacturer. So we are building EVs, right, to try to reduce the number of internal combustion engines on the road, which, obviously is going to have an effect on vehicular emissions anyway. And then for my job at the company that makes EVs, I manage employee transportation programs. And so the whole point of what I do is to try to encourage, basically densifying trips, getting people to carpool, take public transit, van pool, also active transportation like biking and walking to work. So those are sort of our gold standards. Right now, kind of the way that our offices are and like where they're located, most buildings are in the Southern California area where there's a lot of driving alone. So it's difficult, to accomplish our goals, and it's really largely based on where they are. We also have an office in Vancouver where our drive alone rate is close to zero. So yeah, well, it just goes to show that like city governments and county governments, state governments, federal governments have a lot to do or a lot of influence when it comes to like people's ability to, just the overall mobility choices are largely based on the infrastructure that's available. But anyway, that's probably good enough of an answer.
No, that's fantastic.
Okay, great.
This is Pamela Burton, Solar Grandma, and we remodeled our 108-year-old home to make it net zero. So we did all the insulation that we needed to do, double pane windows, added an extra layer of foam on the interior of all the exterior walls.
Okay.
We put up 3 solar systems, one on as a porch roof, one on the garage, and one on the house. We put in a solar hot water system.
Okay.
And we put in a hot water heat pump to make hot water for a radiant floor system. That's how we heat the house. It's an all-electric house because there was no gas on our street. We put in one of those LG stoves, which is totally efficient. Of course, we had to change our cookware, but we got a smaller refrigerator, which works fine. We're retired. We're 2 people. And it took us it took us about 3 years to get it all the way to zero.
Thank you so much.
But then it became, we got it registered. There's an official program you have to go through, prove all the numbers,
Okay.
and we got it at net zero. And we have electric cars we're charging.
What inspired you to change your home over to all electric?
It was 9 grandchildren, really. I mean, and you know what's going on with the horrible conditions all around the world that are proof that there is climate change. So we just had to do our part.
That's awesome.
And then I do a regular radio show on KBFG, 2 hours a day. Do a lot on climate. This is Hispanic month, so I'm also doing stuff on history of the Hispanic movement in this country for social justice, etc. But yeah, so as far as we're concerned, whatever we can do to save things for your generation and like the next 7 generations, we have to be thinking about them.
Well, I think it's just because the easy things like we can recycle quite a bit, and then we can use our yard waste bin quite a for a lot of things as well. So that part makes it easy. Absolutely. And we've done it. We've been in the city here for more than 20 years, so it's just kind of second nature now. Yeah. So it's no effort, and the whole family's kind of into thrifting, so we love to do that.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to find, so that's fun.
We're doing the second one, yeah. I think I'm sustainable in my life. I ride my bike a lot, and I don't usually drive the car unless it's like really far away.
What are you most curious about in sustainability?
I think what I'm curious about in the sustainability space right now is a lot of the consumer items that were being sold, such as like reusable bags at supermarkets or metal straws for reuse. Looking at kind of like the lifespan of how long you'll use that. Like, how long does that bag last? Does it last like a year, 2 years before you use it, or lose it or break, or like before you lose the straw? And looking at like the impact of manufacturing that on the environment versus having something that is recyclable. Like if we figured out a way, or compostable, like if we figured out a way to recycle our, say, like shopping bags better, instead of having it be something that you have to bring it back to the same supermarket, or what's actually better for the environment when you're switching away from plastic straws? Do you want a metal straw, or is it really better to have a compostable straw? I would like to know that, because I feel like a lot of times it's just kind of a nice to have that the corporations are kind of putting people like, oh, the sustainability responsibility is on you now. It's like, well, what actually is the most sustainable option when you're faced with these in your day-to-day life? That's what I'm interested in.
I am most curious about how we can update existing infrastructure and for existing rooftops to become green, or looking at school play yards and things like that to increase canopy in public spaces that, I think it's really difficult to ask individual residents to plant 5 Douglas firs in their front yard, but maybe it's not hard to ask an elementary school to do that if policy change can happen to demand it. And I also would like to, did I say what I'd like to see or just what I'm curious about? I would love to see the Seattle tree canopy ordinances adjust from, instead of when you take down a tree, you have to replace with a tree. And often I see that a mature tree leaves and a sapling comes in that doesn't get cared for, to really have a 1-for-1 canopy coverage. So maybe that means 7 saplings, or maybe that means adjusting to the other side of the street where there are not power lines. But I think I see that all the time when I walk around. I'm look at power line style streets, and I'm like, wow, look at all the trees there, and not enough trees on the other side, 0 things like that. So I'd love to see where we can learn and help our policymakers grow in demanding forestry in public places.
Love that. Thank you. I've never.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly interested in trying to find ways of, I think we hear a lot about the sort of small things we can do. Of course, we can reuse the things that we have, we can recycle, and I think these are super important, super important. I think probably the real solution to doing sustainability is to do these things at scale. But I'm also really interested in sort of what are the things that I, as just a small person who is extremely worried about, climate change and landfills filling up and microplastics, about what is a really scalable thing that that I don't know, I could spend an outsized amount of time on, and hopefully make an impact.
I'm AJ. I live in Seattle, and I'm curious about how we could help. I'm curious about how we can align companies, incentivize companies to produce products that help us be sustainable, and not just in a greenwashy way like we have with the, plastic straws and stuff.
So for me, I think the area that's most interesting is renewable energy, and how we can transition from our current model of mainly fossil fuel energy powering our grid and transportation, and how we go about that transition to get to renewable energy as the main source of power for so many things in our society and our in our way of life. So there's huge technology problems, policy challenges, and so forth. And so that's the area that I work in. I work for a solar company. I'm very connected in that way. But that's what I would say is my main interest in the area that I follow the most. Yeah, I think they're all important, and all forms of renewable energy have to be utilized, and we've got to be smart about how we deploy things. I don't think of renewable energy or solving the climate crisis at all in terms of political ideology. I think we really just need to do things that make sense, and think in terms of practical solutions and things that are scientifically based, and how do we attack these problems in a logical and sort of straightforward linear way. So that's how my brain works. So wind power is a really important part of it. Smart nuclear that is very carefully managed, I think could be a part of it, but it's terrifying. I just watched a whole series about the Japanese nuclear disaster, and there are obviously huge implications for doing nuclear wrong, but it's also could be a really important part of the solution as well if it's done correctly. I work in the solar industry. Solar is absolutely exploding as far as the industry here in the United States and around the world. It's going to be a super important part of the solution going forward as we adopt more and more electrification of our transportation through electric vehicles. There's a lot more power that's going to be needed, and so electrifying all these loads, heat pumps and electric vehicles, is going to require a lot more power generation, and that's a big part of that's going to be from solar. Population's growing. We're electrifying a lot of loads that haven't been electrified, like gas cars, also heat pumps. So as we're phasing out of gas appliances, certain governments are basically just outlawing natural gas and propane and so forth, and pushing people towards electrification. So we think it's a good thing as long as that electrification is coming with a push towards renewables and properly incentivizing clean power generation. So, but yeah, I've heard similar stats that there's going to be a huge new demand. We're seeing an increasing population, people having much bigger homes, people just having a lot more luxurious lifestyle, and as much as we try to focus on sustainability, there's going to be pressure from all those places. Because I just actually came from a conference 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas called RE+, which is gathering of renewable energy businesses, policy and thought leaders, the whole swath from all over the world. There were 40,000 people there. The scope of our industry is massively expanded. It's really exciting to be in the industry. I feel very fortunate that I kind of stumbled into it when I did 10 years ago. And in fact, I have 2 teenage sons, and I tell both of them, do whatever you want, but if you're looking for something that's going to be a strong industry where you can feel good about what you do, working in renewable energy is a good space, in particular solar, because the technology is there. It's tested and proven and now being built at a massive scale, and it's a huge part of the solution to the climate crisis. It's going to be a great space to work in. So it's super exciting. So yeah, the trend is massively upwards, especially in solar. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed last year by the Biden administration, is investing billions of dollars into U.S. manufacturing of solar equipment, which is exciting. Also, it expanded the solar tax credit. So huge things to help encourage and push forward the renewable energy economy, which is a huge part of it.
And that's a wrap. Huge thank you to everyone that participated in this episode. It was so fun to hear the thoughts and opinions of so many different people, and it was so great to connect with other sustainability advocates as well, some of whom will appear on future episodes coming soon. And another giant thank you to Sustainable Ballard for giving me this opportunity to do this episode, and I cannot wait to do it all again next year. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed hearing from community members and learning a bit more about what people think about sustainability. Thanks for tuning in. I'm stoked to see you for the next episode. But until then, stay rad. Bye.
What do you think about sustainability? Yay, good job. I agree.